Hey, this is Notser, and we're going to be discussing battle armor, destroyer armor, and the economy. So, yesterday, a Wargaming representative confirmed battle armor changes in 0.5.12 will not make it to the live patch. Thank you. The destroyer nerfs are not making it as far as their armor is concerned in relation to secondary battery. That's great. And finally, they do agree that the economy at tier 10 needs to be addressed. And that's going to have a lot of discussion. But let's just cover the battle armor. I was playing extensively the public test server. I did not see anything out of the ordinary. I would see targets just completely be wiped out if they were trying to aggressively move around. I think the battle armor change, it does have some aspects that are good to discourage players from just sitting bow on, but it also discourages any aggressive forward push if you have to go up against a battleship. You know what discourages a stationary target? Torpedoes. Broadside. That is what is going to make those guys move around, and you need to encourage players to continue their movement in order to take out those battleships, not by taking their armor down. Now, I did feel like the Yamato was a better battleship than the other two. I do feel like the Montana is a little pathetic now that we have the Grosse Kurfürst, but the Yamato was going to be hurt the most from the battle armor change. Obviously, its guns can penetrate the enemy armor unless they have some slight angle, and this change would allow the enemies to penetrate its armor. And it's not going in. You're going to have to rely on torpedoes, aircraft carriers, and broadside in order to move them. HE fire, I like all of that. I think that is the way the game should be balanced. It works very well. As far as the destroyer armor is concerned, I already feel like destroyers are underplayed. There's a little bit too many battleships, not enough cruisers and destroyers in the match itself. It would have been very scary in an environment where there are so many German battleships because they have a relative immunity to citadels. German battleships pushing forward, having secondary build, because it's very obvious it's the best build when you can do so much damage to your opponent. I felt like a lot of German battleship captains on the public test server could easily just ignore mechanics and go forward. And that's not good. It's not good that a class can ignore some mechanics. So I am very happy that they're not changing the armor profile of either one of these classes. We'll see how well it works out. Coupled with the other changes they had, they will be keeping the cruiser modification for speed of the rudder. It'll be interesting. It will demand a higher skill cap of the player. That's going to put people off. It's going to limit the number of people who play it. I mean, let's face it. People who play battleships, they probably play cruisers. Very rarely do people who play battleships and cruisers go to the destroyers. And absolutely, almost nobody plays aircraft carriers. So the destroyer gameplay demands a level of agility, attentiveness, that is going to be expected for the cruisers if they consider it among the balance for the future. Now, I don't care about that. I handle destroyers well. I think I handle destroyers pretty well. Not really, right? I run into islands all the time. But you get the idea. Now, let's get to what really matters to me, because I've been ranting about it. I have let my frustration known, and I love people who comment saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with tier 10 economy, it's great. No, there is something wrong with tier 10 economy. Okay, when a player does everything in their power to help their team win and they run a deficit, there's something wrong. If they're top on the team, they should not run a deficit in a non-premium format. It shouldn't require that you have premium to make income. If you're top on your team, maybe even number 2 on your team, if you are a player who is able to be top on your leaderboard, you should be rewarded for that in the form of less repair cost, less whatever. And they're basically going to do this. So what is going to happen is it's going to have a fixed repair cost when you start the match. No longer is the repair cost going to scale based on the amount of damage you take. And this is great in two folds. First of all, you have an idea of what the ship is going to cost when you pull it right off the bat, and that is not going to negatively influence the way you play the game. And you might say, well, the whole game has worked like this. Well, yeah, but at tiers 5, 6, we're talking about 1,000 credits, 5,000 credits. We're not talking about 300,000 credits that it can scale up to when you take damage, right? I mean, that's a significant scale. So you, of course, want to try and salvage some credit from the game. Doesn't make sense. So I'm glad they're going in this direction. A fixed cost for high tier. Now, I believe they stated that it's only tier 10. Something along those lines. This is not changing the cost for the entire game. It's more associated with tier 10 right now, and we'll see how well that develops. I do not feel like anything outside tier 10, maybe tier 9, is a real issue. Good players can recoup the cost. Bad players cannot recoup the cost. That's how it's supposed to be. But obviously right now it's good players can't recoup the cost, bad players can't recoup the cost. So nobody is happy. Now, what do I think about this adjustment? Well, it is an alignment towards a more reasonable game. It is something that is going to address some of the passive play, in my opinion. If there's no reward for playing passive, then there's no incentive to play passive. As long as you take away anything that de-incentivizes aggressive, legitimate play, it's going to be a better place for the team, the player, whatever. I don't know why you would ever want to incentivize passive play in a multiplayer game that's already slower than your average game. Now, it's not too bad when you're really in the action and people want to fight back and forth, but it's absolutely terrible when people go to the edge of the map and they don't want to engage people. They want to wait out the full 20 minutes. And I've played through plenty of games. You've probably played through plenty of games exactly like that. And it won't make tier 10 feel like such a drag on my economy for my main profile. I was telling Pointman, I just can't play tier 10s on my main account. I'm just going to spam press. Well, that's not really fair because the press account can avoid cost. It's not a good representation of a realistic economy because I don't care. I just go to my rep and say, hey, give me 100,000 doubloons on the press account. Oh, sure. Be right on it. It's not a realistic situation. So it's good that they made these changes. It's really good that they commented directly, suggesting that they do read and they do understand and they do agree. I'm very happy. I honestly don't have anything else to say about these changes. They're all good for the health of the game. There's nothing bad here. Now, some of you might say, I hate destroyers. They should die easier. Well, there's plenty of ways to kill destroyers. You could have someone run into an island. You could run into a torpedo. You could be detonated by an opponent. Some of you might say, oh, well, bow armor gameplay, bow armor gameplay. It is an issue, but it's not as big of an issue where we have to ruin every other aspect of the game. You just need to get into a position where maybe mobility is rewarded, or maybe stationary targets are less incentivized to stay stationary. There's so many ways they could fix it without completely changing the balance of the front of a battleship, which that exactly did. That changed the balance immensely of the front of the battleships. And of course, we die in the Karl, trying to help our team win the game. I'm hoping my team can do a good job, but I just wanted to get a quick video addressing this. Yes, I'm excited. Yes, I know about it. Yes, yes, yes. It was funny. I was streaming on Friday, my normal stream day, and I would say a fair number is about 30, maybe. I think 30 is fair. 30 is a real number where people would come into the chat, "Hey, Notser, did you hear about the armor? Did you hear about the economy?" And I would separately, of course, because this went over 6 or 7 hours, more like 6. This went over 6 hours. Yes, of course I heard about it. Yes, I'm very excited, and it's so funny that it's true. It's true as a streamer. That's one of the first things they say. You will find yourself answering the same question over and over and over. And they're always laughing. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no... Oh, yes, there is way. There is indeed the ways where people will just find a way not to be there for that precise moment. And it will happen constantly. But I appreciate everyone. Don't hold back. Don't feel bad about asking a question. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's funny. Hopefully you can find humor in that as well. I'm sure most of you have had to re-answer a question at least a handful of times in your life, and at some point it's like, do you not hear me? You know, I know the person wasn't there, but it's just one of those things about streaming. Speaking of streaming, we have been accepted into Twitch partnership. Yes! And I have ordered a streaming PC. So for anyone who doesn't know about that, streaming PCs will allow me to offload CPU cycles to another PC. This PC will also be local recording, so the game will be in its purest state. This is another thing that I was mentioning to Poimain. I have never played World of Warships without recording software in the background, actively hindering the maximum performance that I could potentially get out of it. I have never played the game without recording, because the intent at the very start, after I saw that the replay structure was pretty crappy, it leaves a lot to be desired in the UI that it takes away, and just the hitchiness. You all agree, right? Best case scenario, watch it live. Worst case scenario, you watch it in a replay. So yeah, I'm very excited to get this PC, offload all of that extra CPU cycles onto another PC, and just play the game purely with a high performance PC. I know there's plenty of people out there, Notser, you're already 100 times more powerful than I have ever seen the game at. But keep in mind, I make this content. I want your viewing experience to be the best it could possibly be. And it can only get better with these changes and with these additions to the content. So, yeah, bow armor change. I'm glad they reverted it. I'm glad they reverted the destroyer armor change. I'm probably honestly more excited about that than anything else, because I love destroyers. As far as the economy, absolutely, I am on board with this. Anything to de-incentivize passive play, 100% put it in the game. Now, if we could just get some more team-oriented ribbons to notify the player that they are indeed doing something worthy of supporting the team in real time, I think that would be a great addition. And come on, Wargaming, I know you guys listen to my content. Just try and give us a little nugget. Say, hey, Notser, you were spotting someone and they're doing damage. Good job. Anything like that in real time would be fantastic. I really appreciate all the support. It really means a lot. It really does. I tell Poimain, there's no way they actually like the content. I'm a pessimist on this sort of thing. I always question every aspect of my life to improve it. But it also gets me into a point where I never actually accept any compliment as fact. I always think they're pandering or something. But I really do appreciate all the support. I hope you will continue to join me on this adventure. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.